Elio guys, and welcome back. Now I'm sure some of you guys are like, hey, I've seen this tier list before. You have, but with recent updates to the game, I figured I would go back before I kind of like move on and do other tier lists and kind of update the ones that we have. So of course I'm going to start off with the Sappers one, there's going to be the Wave Clear one next, and I'm waiting hopefully for next month for the next one, which is going to be the Super Evolution tier list kind of update before I move forward with any more tier lists. But anyways, you guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so I just want to say, this is a disclaimer, this is one man's opinion. You can feel free to agree or disagree with it. Do remember, at the end of the day, it's just a game, you guys. That's all that it is. I've already explained in my first video, which I will keep up. So if you want a more in-depth explanation of what's going on here with every Astromon and why they're at the situation or the part of the tier list that they are at, feel free to check that out. But this is more of just an update of showing you guys what I have added, because I've missed a couple my first time through, and with recent balance changes and just changing Astromon in general, I figured what better time is it than now to go ahead and include the new and improved guys that we have here. So I'm going to start off from the top, and then we're going to move to the bottom. Do keep in mind that we're going to be reading from left to right, meaning whoever's on the furthest to the letter over here, so whoever's to the furthest of the S is going to be the top of the tier, and whoever is further away, which is Dark Vamp in this situation, is going to be the lower part of the tier. So he's still S tier, he's just on the lower end of S tier. But anyways, just giving you guys a quick breakdown of everything going on here. Obviously S tier is the best sappers in the game, and keep in mind this tier list is purely looking at them from a stat point with a little bit of stat focus as well. I try to look at both their stats and their stat percentages and how well their saps are. So do keep that in mind of these mons being ranked the way that they are. And then the I tier down here stands, I believe, for Impractical, where I'm saying you can use them for sap and they are actually sappers. It's just that their kit isn't double sap. All these mons over here, they're repping double sap in their kit. So these guys are still sappers, it's just that they don't have double sap in their kit. But I didn't want to include them in with the sappers because I feel like there is a difference between them, and some of these guys may be better than some of these guys. But for a tier list, I want to keep everything kind of like peanut butter and jelly, if you're picking up what I'm putting down here. But anyways, Fire Purse is still top dog due to her stat percentages, especially when you take into account skill books and just her overall stats in general. Water Artemis comes in at a nice and very close second because I think she has slightly less stat percentages, even though her stats are very similar to Fire Purse's. And then we have the new addition to the team, which is going to be Dark Vamp. Now, from memory, I do believe Dark Vamp has sap times 3 for his 3-star skill, and then maybe sap times 2 for his 5-star skill, which is a very good upgrade. I pulled him recently and I would love to give him a test, but with sap being times 3 on your 3-star skill, that's pretty potent, especially if it can stick, because I do believe his is 100% chance. So as long as it sticks, dude, we're good, and I don't need to worry too much about getting saps off or not, because he's a double sapper. Coming in for the A tier though is going to be Light Rattus. Obviously we know about Light Rattus. Decent stats, very glassy, but his damage is pretty good even though he is a sapper. And I mean, he's a light sapper, so obviously him hitting a dark mon does benefit his damage a little bit more than any other mon, but he's still a decent sapper. Loki comes in next after that with his Super Evolution. Now, I believe the debate before was like Light Rattus versus Fire Loki with the Super Evolution and the buff that Loki got. Obviously, Loki has come a long way, and it's up to you to decide if you want to say that Fire Loki is better than Light Rattus. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, they're both A tier at the end of the day, so that's pretty much it. And then we have Dark Flora, which is an exotic. She also has double sap, I believe, but her sap times 3 isn't as high, if I'm recalling from memory. Let me check over here on the bot. Yeah, so she has 80% sap, but if you book it up, it goes 100% for 1 turn, and then she does have sap times 2, which goes to 80% chance for 2 turns for her 5-star skill. The only issue with her though is, even though she's a dark mon, her attack stat is like dirt nasty low. It's like 2.4k. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. You can still make your Sappers offensive, and their main selling point isn't their damage, but with her being a dark type, having a very, very anemic 2.4k attack stat isn't super duper appealing, and that really hurts her damage overall, because if her attack stat was higher, she would of course be a little bit more superior to Light Rattus just because she's a dark mon, but Light Rattus literally almost has a 1k increase. I mean, to all my experts out there, to be like, he doesn't have a 1k increase, he has a 700 attack increase, which is still a pretty good difference in terms of his attack. So that's why he's up there with where he's at. Moving on to the B tier though, we have Water Miho bringing in the squad at the top of the list here, followed by Water Sea Star. Now Water Sea Star did get a buff recently, which was super duper great to her, super duper kind, because not only did her stat rate increase slightly, but her, especially her attack and I believe her HP got a nice upgrade. So she definitely has more attack than both Water Yuki and Water Miho. But Water Miho still beats her out with a slightly more reliable sap, with it being 100%, even though I believe Water Miho has sap for one turn and well, one time sap and not 2 times sap. So once again, you can feel free to switch it up. I'm sure some people would say that Water Sea Star is now superior than Water Miho in terms of the B tier, which is perfectly fine. If you want Water Sea Star to be the head of the B tier, I'm perfectly okay with that. I just don't think that Water Yuki should be in that spot. I mean, her sap is just fine, but there's not really too much damage you can get out of her because she is a tank type. Her animation's dirt nasty slow, and I mean, if you're going to super evo any of these 3 mons, I just wouldn't unless you really, really like them. But I did see some super evoed Water Sea Stars in a couple count reviews of them using her in like B11 and stuff, so it's really up to you of what to choose. But yeah, I believe that their spots over here is perfect for them. And then just to carry off the B tier at the very end here, we have Dark Rabidl, who is a single type Astromon, and even though he's a dark type, he is single target, but his sap is still better than Wood Sea Star, so that's why he is here. He's not practical, but he does count as a sapper even though he's single target. So if you played on manual because there's something wrong with you, he would actually be probably a decent Astromon, especially as you begin the game, but he's an exotic, so he's not super duper easy to come across. Coming in with the C tier though, not C Star, we have Wood Seedler. Say no more, tank type, has sap. Its sap rates aren't that good at all. Usable, but very, very cringe to use from my memory of Elemental Tower of Chaos using him as a sapper. D tier, self-explanatory. These are like the great value of the great value sappers. Like, I always talk about Walmart and have, like, you know, you have the official brands and you go over to cereal and they have like the great value. Like you have Rice Krispies, you go to the great value Walmart brand and it has crispy rice. Well, this is like the dollar store version of that. Like, these are the sappers that you don't want. It doesn't matter what you do to them, they're never going to be good. That's D tier in a nutshell. Carrying on though to the Impractical tier list, it doesn't mean they're impractical as in being sappers. It's just that they're impractical in terms of this list of being sappers, because the top of the list was for dual sappers only, meaning both 3 and 5-star skills are sap. Coming in hot though is going to be Dark Yuki. She's just the beast of an Astromon, to be honest. Not only does she have crowd control, a crowd control ability, which is SP Siphon on her, but she's also a Darkmon, and with her being a tank type, due to her stat distribution, you can actually get away with making her a bit more defensive, and she can still soak up some damage. And with her lead being like a death blow lead as well, that's also pretty great. So very, very good mon. I do use mine not in B11, but I do know that there's B15 teams that use her because of her crowd control and sap. So very, very versatile mon, and one of the greatest, if not the greatest mon on this list in terms of not being sap. After that is going to be Wood Jormungandr. Now, people would disagree with this, and I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, but from a practical standpoint, just looking at his skills on paper, Wood Jormungandr is second in my book because he can get his SP up. While it's not like the greatest rise up, I'm sure at Evo 3 he's going to perform better than Evo 2, because I do have an Evo 2 one, and his SP generation isn't that great, but I do believe at Evo 3 it would be better. He's second on the list, but you can feel free to lower him if you want. Wood Cernunnos is going to be third, if I pronounced that wrong. That's why I call him Mr. C. But with Sap and Undying Volition, depending on what content that you're doing, he could obviously be second on the Impractical tier list for you, because not only can your team survive, but he's also getting some saps off as well, meaning he's not just a dead weight. After that, it's going to be Wood Hohenheim. She has resistance down in sap. Pretty much enough said there. You apply resistance down to everyone. She gets her 5-star skill off of sap. Everyone gets sapped. Congratulations. Game over. The next addition to the list, though, is going to be Wood Persephone. Now, I did miss her the first time because for whatever reason my mind forgot that she existed. Just because we already have Fire Purse as a sapper, it's like, why do you have 2 Astromon but one of them only does sap for 1 skill and not both skills? Why not just change both skills? But we're not going to get into that. But Wood Persephone has sap times 3, I believe, and then also attack down. Let me double check. Okay, yep, she has sap times 3, 100% chance, and then she also has attack down. Not a very practical sapper if you're running the game on auto, because once her SP bar gets full, she's going to spam attack down. But in certain situations, like guys have pointed out, maybe in like Colossus, depending on what Colossus that you're doing, or even if it's in Tower of Chaos, if you're using her as a sapper for whatever reason, not judging you, that's your own business, that could be super duper helpful of making sure that the enemy that you're fighting is debuffed so she can continue to sap and make sure that the squad stays alive. So she does have some debuffing capabilities, and she can also sap as well, and with it being her 3-star skill, it's reasonable, at least in my opinion, of her being on this list at this point in time. And her stats aren't anything to scoff at either. They're pretty balanced and they're pretty fair, so you can get away with building her a little bit more DPS orientated without that being a big issue. I just wouldn't Evo 3 her. I wouldn't, man. I wouldn't, but that's up to you. Wood Vamp's coming in next, though. Wood Vamp has morale boost and also sap, if I do recall. Yeah, he has morale boost, but it's 30%, which is pretty piss poor because it's only for him. It should be 50% to make him viable. He costs a whole bunch of nat 4s, but stat wise, with a 2.2k attack stat, it's just very anemic. And even though he can get his morale boost up, he is just the worst version of Wood Jormungandr. Like, that's pretty much it. You're not going to get any damage out of him at all. And yeah, I mean, moving on, we have Dark Pip, who has Battle Rush and also sap times 3, I believe. And Dark Pip is a dark type, so it does benefit from additional damage via crit if it does crit. But with a 2.6k attack stat, I mean, the only reason why it's below Wood Vamp in this situation is just because Wood Vamp has morale boost, which obviously gives him more SP. And I mean, Pip gets what, 20% battle rush? Yeah, 20%. So it can heal itself and get SP up, but morale boost is just a lot better in making sure you get your 5-star skill faster than lovely old Pips. So that's why he's higher than that. Same thing with Dark Boltwing, who I believe has a very, very similar kit. Let me see right here. Yep, morale boost, but this is for all allies, and it goes up to 15%. And then also has sap times 2, 80%, which goes to 90% with books in 2 turns. Very self-explanatory here. So basically, they have to have a turn to kind of charge up, or depending on what you're fighting, maybe 2 turns to charge it up and get their sap off, which could be resisted, could not be resisted. Really depend on RNG. But with their attack stats, it's still nothing really, really great. Totodor suffers from the same thing, morale boost and sap, and obviously Guardian Dungeon Mons usually aren't very, very good, and I mean, he's definitely usable. He was definitely usable back in the day as a B10 Mon, but it's really up to you if you want to use him. I personally wouldn't, because if you pull a Wood Purse, just use her. If you pull a Wood Hohenheim, just use her. If you pull a Dark Yuki, just use her. Use Wood Jormungandr. Use anyone on this list. You don't have to farm out soul stones to get him to Evo 3 to be disappointed. And then furthering along with that, we have Dark Arthur here, who recently got a update as well. I believe he lost sap times 3, and now he has sap times 2 with a pretty good percentage up there. That's still an upgrade, at least in my opinion, because even if sap gets resisted somehow, it should make him a little bit more reliable just overall with his saps, which is super duper good. But once again, this is a Sappers tier list. He has HP, aggression, and sap, meaning all the other mons in front of him, excluding Purse and obviously Hohenheim over here and Mr. C, and Dark Yuki. I know it's a lot, but these mods over here have a lot better chance of gaining SP, at least in my opinion, than him. Like, if you're trying to use him for sapping, you can, and obviously he's going to survive with his HP aggression because hopefully he has triple HP on him. It's just that in a sapping scenario, I personally don't find him that super duper amazing. You can feel free to bump him up on this list if you want. I have a Dark Arthur. I don't use him. I just have him because I wanted a Dark Arthur because it's Arthur, bro. Like, self-explanatory. But he is where he's out on the list just because he can't get to his 5-star skill reliably. And then coming in next, though, we have our newest addition also, which is Dark Mushy, who has resistance down and sap. Also single target Astromon like Rabidl, but obviously not double sap, so he's not on the double sap part of the tier list. But with resistance down, that's a good lead into getting his 5-star skill off, which is sap to hopefully stick to a target. But with it being single target, it's obviously nothing really reliable, because why you're going to bring in a single target sapper? What are you going to sap unless it's just a boss? But if you're fighting a boss, why not just bring a nuker instead? We're not going to get into it. We have Light Cosmos coming in after him, though, because of adrenaline and sap, meaning we once again have to rely on SP generation through orbs, depending on what you're attacking, and they get that SP bar full for it to do sap. Now, it's going to survive, but when is sap going to happen? You got to ask RNGesus, man. That's pretty much it. And then after that, we have Wood Slime Soldier. Same issue with it having sap and elemental edge. It's just not good. Like, none of the slime soldiers are good at all, so it's just not good at all. Yeah. Sap and elemental edge, 2 times sap. I mean, I guess you could argue that it's very similar to Wood Purse if you want, but it's exotic, it's kind of hard to get, and not really worth building other than Astro Guide, because even though it has sap on it, it also has elemental edge, but it's single target, so it's up to you. I personally don't think it's a great mod at all, but if you had nothing else to sap with, not even a Wood Purse, then you use what you have to use. And then ending this here is going to be Light Mandy as the worst sapper in the game at the moment, in terms of the Impractical tier list, just because I believe she has like Taunt in sap, or is it sap and Taunt? Let me check though. Okay, she has Fearless Taunt in sap, so she can mitigate taking damage to herself and kind of put the tension on her, but her active move is going to be sap, so she's going to sap them, which doesn't really help her case at all. So that's why she's there. Why would you bring her anywhere and use her? That's none of my business. Maybe you have this sap composition for your PvP team. I don't know, but that's pretty much it, you guys. That's the updated Sappers tier list. If you want to be curious about what was added in this tier list versus the 1.0 version, this is the 1.1, 1.5 version, whatever you want to call it. This is the updated version. Dark Vamp, Light Vamp was added. C-Star gotten a buff, so she got changed. I also added in Wood Purse. There's also not Wood Mushy, but Dark Mushy, and I believe also Wood Slime Soldier had been added. So feel free to use this as your own personal tier list. I will leave a link in the description below leading you to the Discord link of this tier list, so you can like pull it up and save it if you want to and kind of mess with it on your own and make your own opinions about this. But I figured I would just do an updated video and have it not take as long, because I already did most of the explaining in the first video. Feel free to refer to the first video if you want more in-depth explanations for how all of these mods sit. But with it being an update video, it doesn't need to be 25,000 minutes long. And that's pretty much it, you guys. If I update this in the future, though, I will just delete this video and just upload another video in place of this video. So I will always have like the base tier list where I did most of my explanations from, and then the updated tier list. That way you get a more recent kind of snapshot of what's going on in MSL after balance patches and stuff of that nature. But that's pretty much it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any opinions on the tier list, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Do remember that the Wave Clear tier list is going to be updated next, followed by hopefully the Super Evolution tier list, and then after that, the sky's the limit. But if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And yep, that's pretty much it, you guys. See ya.